A Blurring Line, Chapter 12, The Sorcerer's Shadow. Kilgarrah had plenty of time to contemplate the future while avoiding humanity. The mountains of Asgaroth were a wide range and not often traveled by the foot of man. It was not difficult to avoid the sight of men. He had only ventured back into Camelot's borders twice since his banishment. Both times he had been summoned by Merlin. Once through need. She had been stung by a circuit, wrapped in chains he'd had to tear away from her with a careful claw. Nothing short of his talons would have broken it. It boiled his blood, the thought of her confined so similarly to how Uther had trapped him, though at least her captors had planned her death, not just a jeering imprisonment. He had rescued her, healing her as best he could before she had ordered him to return her to Camelot so she could forewarn the others. He'd argued, but Balinor's order had been too vague. Answer her as you would me. If that had been intentional on the Dragon Lord's part, he did not know. But it had allowed her the leeway to order him, as her father did, even without the power that would someday course through her blood. She had only used it twice. The second time had enraged Kilgarrah to no end. He'd been ordered to help her save Morgana. Merlin had still been half convinced there was some measure of good in her, though that had been quickly disproved. Now she had called him again, though this time it seemed she was lost, not in the woods, but for a solution to an issue. Another young sorcerer had arrived in Camelot, seeking recognition through the open tournament. He would face Uther in the final, had expressed a want for vengeance after killing most of his opponents, though he had expressed regret for a few of them. He had brought himself to the reasoning that he would be free if Uther died. Merlin might once have thought that as well, but she had grown so much in the last near 4 years now. She had learned the delicate situation that the cause she was born for sat on, constantly balanced on a knife's edge, not just because of Uther himself. The root of the issue was that if magic killed his father directly, if there was nothing else to blame but Uther's cruelty against magic as a whole, Arthur would be turned against magic in a similar way. Arthur could not lose both of his parents to magic. She had an impossible choice. Defend Uther and possibly get Gilly caught and executed, or allow Uther to die and Arthur to ascend the throne, risking that he would still discover magic and turn against it. Her choices were never easy ones, would never be easy. He wished he could offer her a solid answer, a simple, easy solution, but life was never easy, he sighed as he flew back into the mountains. Merlin watched as Gilly left Camelot. He waved to her as he made his way out. Kin, he'd said. It made her smile a bit. She made her way back up to the castle, picking up a few of Gaius's orders on the way from his suppliers at the market. Lila smiled at her from behind her stall, her near-year-old son on her hip. Merlin paused at the stall, nodding to Lila's father, who provided the produce. "How is little Robin?" she asked, and Lila grinned. "The sweetest babe, as he's been since the day you delivered him," she joked, and Merlin laughed. "Good," she said, turning to leave. Lila picked up a plum and tossed it to Merlin, who caught it with a quick thank you. Lila's father grinned at her, and she hummed as she made her way up to the castle. "You're in a good mood," Leon said. Merlin frowned. "Will I still be when I find out why you're here?" she asked, and Leon held up his arm. "Superficial cut, but I have to set an example for the other men. Can't have them ignoring injuries, or they'll get a lecture from Gaius. Or you," he said with a grin. Merlin nodded. "You're learning," she said. "I'm trying. You need to be careful, though. I'm not going to be around to watch your back for a while," Leon teased. Merlin raised an eyebrow. He sighed. "You didn't hear it from me, but Senrid is getting bolder along the border. We're not sure why yet, but I'm going with a few other knights and some soldiers to make sure things are all right," Leon said, his voice lowered. Merlin frowned. "Just be safe. Senrid is vicious. Expect the unexpected," she said, glancing at the door to ensure it was closed. She lowered her voice. "I know he's working with Morgause, but I'm not sure how closely." Leon nodded seriously. "If I've learned anything running around after you this past year, it's to expect the unexpected. He joked. Merlin pulled a face, sticking out her tongue at him. He reached forward and ruffled her hair. She danced out of his reach and let out a little laugh. I can't believe it's already been a year. Not gonna lie, I didn't think we'd all make it through this one, she said, and he rolled his eyes. Your unending optimism is a boon to us all, Merlin. I have to go pack, but I will see you in a few weeks, he said, and she hesitated. He pulled her into a friendly side hug. She returned it. You better come back. You know I will. Can you actually see the future? He asked on his way to the door. Merlin pulled a face. Not something I want to be able to do ever again, she said, her tone going dark. Leon nodded. Noted, he said, smiling as he left the room. Merlin felt something twist in her gut, a feeling like she'd had before. As often as she did, she often did, she hoped she was wrong. She just couldn't help but feel that something was going to go wrong.